Salutations, listeners. Si valis valeo, vala magulus, nano nano. Thank you for tuning in. This is Three Men and a Basement, and we are the Ultra Crepidarians. My name is Colin McLeod.
Mark Colpier.
Timothy Magic.
In this podcast, we like to review movies, and we like to deliver to you, the listener, an average schmuck's opinion on the hidden gems in the wide world of cinema. In this show, we try to target movies that are not absolute blockbuster smashes. We try to target ones that are not so obscure that you could not go out and get your hands on a copy, even if you wanted to. But instead, we aim for that delightful sweet spot of movies that maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't, maybe you've only seen once and you should see again and you forgot about it. And we review them, and we deliver to you our opinion on whether or not they deserve another watch. So, in this episode, the seventh episode of the series, we review the movie...
Mystery Men.
Mystery Men. And this movie was a delight.
Oh my god, I can't wait to talk about this movie. It is one of my favorites.
So I feel like this movie is one of those that, like, this was all really targeted at us when we were growing up. Yeah. Like, I feel like this was aimed at us, right between the eyes.
Yep.
I've seen this movie just a countless amount of times. Mark?
I couldn't put a number on it. Like, you could say any line in the entire movie, and I would follow it up with the line after that. And I am not a quotes guy normally.
You know, they call you Mr. Pig.
They call me That's a line from Lethal Weapon, I believe. But no, I freaking love this movie. It's right up there for me with, like, you know, Anchorman and a little gem called The Wild Wild West. I don't know if you guys have heard of that movie.
That was
It's a biopic. It's a
Yeah.
Like, they made a movie out of that old TV show?
Sure. Nope.
That was Gene Wilder, circa like 1976.
Right.
It's a
Mel
classic.
Brooks. That's a Mel Brooks film, right?
Scratching
Yes.
it. Yeah. It's no. Anyway, continuing.
But Tim, you haven't seen this except for once, right?
Once all the way through. If it was on TV, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's on. Here we go. Oh, gotta go. Yeah. But yeah, again, this is one of those releases from the blockbuster years, back when, you know, a lot of times it was just like, okay, we're getting this week.
I remember passing this VHS like multiple times.
Yeah, when did this come out here? I think
late 90s.
This was a 99.
99, like 90.
Okay.
99.
Tail end of the summer. Yeah.
You know, for those of you out there in cyberspace, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. We certainly didn't do this, but hypothetically, if you were to engage in some mind-altering substances, this is the kind of movie that you could definitely, like, you could put, like, Phase on half and just kind of, like, bleed in and out of reality whilst this movie is just kind of happening in front of you, and it would be an enjoyable experience.
It's possible you might still feel like that even if you were sober. It's that kind of movie.
Very possible. So this movie, like we said, 1999. We're going to hit you with some Imdb specs right now. PG-13, 2 hours and 1 minute. I like that runtime. I like a solid 2 hours on my movies. Action, comedy, fantasy. Thoughts on that? Fantasy seems a little weird to me. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe that's appropriate because, like, the time and space they're living in is very much not...
No, it's more of like an alternate present day, because there are aspects of it that are definitely futuristic. You know, we've got, you know, Zeppelins in the sky, you know.
And exaggerated. It's always dark. It's always gloomy, and it's just got this, like, almost like brutalist architecture, you know, like something you'd see in, like,
very Gotham,
Eastern Ukraine or Gotham.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they definitely took some notes from the Schumacher films. Or maybe they wanted to mock that up a little bit.
Definitely. Like, the Batmans out of the 1990s were absolutely the inspiration for, like, the theme and color of this film, in my humble opinion. That's something that I don't think I really, like, came to that realization until I was watching it this time, but that's really what they were going for. It's not a city in this world, so maybe fantasy is appropriate. There was also, like, okay, another thing I noticed, and I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit here, but, like, in this film, there's this really untouched Chinese theme throughout this movie that I'd never noticed before.
Yeah. I mean,
like, there's Chinese writing everywhere. She's in a Chinese... one of the characters is in a Chinese dress at one point. Like, it's...
Yeah, a lot of popular logos that you guys are familiar with are just, you know, in Chinese, like
Yeah.
the Pepsi logo. I think that just kind of plays to this like future, I think that was the intent behind it. you
Yeah.
know? And it was almost like Fallout-esque in that it took old technology and placed it in like a setting that made it feel futuristic. Like there's a scene where they're at the diner and they're watching a commercial at the table on this little teeny like CRT TV. So like at this, in your mind you're thinking, okay, this is futuristic. They're sitting here, they're watching commercials while they're at a diner, but in reality they're watching commercials on this like dinky little like almost black and white TV. So it's like this isn't futuristic.
Which was dated even in 1999.
Yeah.
It's also got this sort of film noir type vibe to it that takes you right back to sort of 1930s and 40s. They sort of wrote that in, I believe, because of the Superman inspiration for the main character, or one of the main characters. And anyways, we'll get into this.
There's a lot of
to unpack.
There's a lot of decade jumping in this film as far as the fashion goes.
Yeah, so I think what we're ultimately circling back to is maybe fantasy was appropriate. Like, on the surface, that caught my attention as like, maybe that's not really what they're going for.
Yeah.
But actually, as we unpack it, I think that actually might be
Slight
right.
elements.
I might even call it parody, but at the time that it came out, I don't think that it was as much parody as it is today.
Right.
We're almost to 2020 here. The market is just saturated with superhero movies. We've got 6 of them that come out every single year, and they're the tentpole movies for the film studios. This movie was before any of that went on. I mean, when this movie came out, the superhero movies that we had were, I think, was this before or after the original X-Men movie?
I think it was right
I think it was
after?
before.
Yeah.
I don't think the
Oh wait, no,
original-
2000 for the first.
Yeah, I don't think the original X-Men was in the 90s.
No, 2000, right?
So this was like Spawn existed?
Spawn,
Right.
Blade, the Batman Schumachers, the Burton Batman movies.
Yeah.
A little bit of Superman from the 70s.
Very different superhero
And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that like Spawn and Blade were like
Kind of
they
charging
were,
the way.
Well, they were comic movies. I don't think a lot of people like saw that. Like everybody knows Batman as a comic.
Yeah.
But like I don't believe that an appreciable amount of the population, if you just showed them Spawn or Blade, would just immediately make the association. Well, clearly that's a comic book. So the description of this film in IMDb is: a group of inept amateur superheroes must try to save the day when a supervillain threatens to destroy a major superhero and the city.
That's it?
I feel like that's it.
Yeah.
That buttons it up nicely without giving anything away.
Yeah.
And it's that's a solid description. Director, Kinka Usher. I don't recognize that name.
Yeah, this is not the Yeezys. No, I'm thinking Kanye. Wow.
Well, yeah, shout out to Kanye, I guess.
No, I mean, they call me Mr. Pig. And
They
there's a
call
reason
you
why we say
Mr.
this.
Pig. And I retract that shout out to Kanye. Sorry, Kanye.
Wow.
Yep. Take a name. Right. So, sorry, Kinka. I don't know you, but you did a great job.
Not known for much else.
So, cast. Okay. Let me just say that like we're gonna try to keep this as brief as possible because the cast list on this movie is fucking ridiculous. Okay, let me start out by a little known dude, Ben Stiller. You might know him from Heavyweights, Tropic Thunder. He's probably sitting in your living room right now.
Yeah, meet the fuckers. I'll take up the next one here. William H. Macy. I think right now the biggest thing he's known for is Shameless, but I mean William H. Macy he's legendary.
National treasure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'll go with Hank Azaria. Of course, obviously many voices on The Simpsons, and you might even know him from The Birdcage.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and
I like the movie.
he was also in the second Night at the Museum.
Oh yeah.
He played Kamen Ra.
Oh yeah. No. Let's just Kel Mitchell's in it. Paul Rubin.
Kel Mitchell from Keenan and Kel.
Loves orange
Yeah.
soda.
Like loves orange soda.
Oh my God. Greg Kinnear.
Oh, Greg Kinnear.
You're gonna yeah, he's gonna kill you as you take off your top.
Little Miss Sunshine. What else we know? We got Greg Kinnear from Flash of Genius, which is also on our list to review. Also, Janine Garofalo is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it...
Steals the show.
Oh,
in my
she's
opinion.
amazing. So, you might know Janine Garofalo from Wet Hot American Summer. Basically anything awesome in the...
A few Kevin Smith films, like Dogma, I think she's
Yeah.
a bit part of that.
Anything awesome from like the 90s and early 2000s, Janine Garofalo has got it.
Yeah.
She's also a talented writer, from what I understand.
But
Who else we got in this?
We could go on for days.
Jeffrey
We
Rush.
cannot forget Jeffrey
Academy
Rush.
Award winner Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah, Water for Elephants.
Oh my god.
Pirates of the Caribbean
Oh,
series.
yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean as Barbosa.
Yeah.
Dude, he was
King's Speech.
the perfect, pick, I think, for Casanova Frankenstein.
That's true.
Okay,
They
can
have
we just
so
like
much.
press a pause? We're gonna keep going with this cast list because like there's a lot of other amazing people in this, but like his character in this movie
So beautiful.
is Casanova Frankenstein, and I would just like to point out that film studios, get your shit together, because Casanova Frankenstein is the best fucking character name in cinematic history, and you need to start stacking up against that, because this movie came out in 99, and this movie has defeated everything that has come out since with respect to character names. You do not get better than Casanova motherfucking Frankenstein.
Somebody had to just come up with that. Like, I'd love
Yes.
there'd be a whole movie around that.
I'd like to think there was a bowl of names and they just pulled those two out of like characters in public domain.
Fucking
I feel
throwing
that's what
darts
they
at a
did.
board with like random words on it. We got Eddie Izzard in this movie.
Oh, God.
Right?
I forgot he was in this because there's been that many years since I've seen it from start to finish.
So we got Eddie Izzard as Tony P, who is one half of the leader, the other one being Tony C, of the Disco Boys. A disco-themed gang that roams around Champion City wreaking havoc.
Again, the decade jumping is just insane in this movie.
Disco is not dead. Disco is life.
Yes, I killed your father.
All right, so...
I did that.
So,
stand up in there.
we've hit sort of the major players. There are a couple of minor people that crop up in cameos in this movie that I want to point out. Again, this movie came out in 99, and it was just on the upswing of Dane Cook, and he's actually in this movie in a bit part.
Yep.
This was before he ever had a leading role in a film. He plays the Waffler, a superhero who is waffle themed and trying out for their superhero gang, and yeah, he's pretty amazing. With his griddle of justice, he bashes the enemy in the head or burns them like so. He also has truth syrup, which is low fat.
I am the Waffler.
Golden crispy, bad guys on history. Who else we got?
Oh man, my man crush, Doug Jones.
Ooh, Doug Jones.
You've seen him. You might not know his face, but man, he's been in everything.
This is actually one of the few movies that he does show his face.
Yeah.
And you're right, Tim. You won't recognize him for that reason. I would also like to point out, as a little aside, Tim and I have actually hugged Doug Jones.
Yes.
So we have that going for us, and that's on my resume.
Oh yeah. He's a racer head.
Pencil Man.
Pencil Man.
But you might know him. He
Racist.
plays Billy the Zombie in Hocus Pocus. He plays the Fingerling and the Fawn in Pan's Labyrinth.
Yep.
What else is
Shape of Water.
Shape of Water? He plays Abe Sapien. He's the Silver Surfer.
Yep.
I mean, Doug Jones, dude, is unstoppable.
Holy crap. I'm just going through this list here. Little known name here. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Michael Bay. You guys heard of the name Michael Bay? Michael Bay has a cameo in this movie as a throwaway frat boy gang member. That was Michael
Oh, he was in
effing-
That is amazing.
Oh my god.
I did not see it.
That was Michael freaking Bay.
I know who you're talking about. Like now,
Right.
I remember seeing him in the movie. I had no idea that was Michael Bay.
Yeah, because there was so much. Again, everyone looks so much. Obviously, it's 99. It's 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody.
All right,
Rewind the clock. Oh, let's not forget Tom Waits.
Tom
Dude's
Waits.
known mostly for his music, but if you ever seen a little movie called Seven Psychopaths, I highly recommend it. He almost steals the show in that too.
What's he waiting for?
For his next album to drop, and also Satan to come and claim him.
Just casual.
Yeah.
So, let me, like, as a quick aside, just, like, talk about, like, movies that have this big of a cast list, in my humble opinion, and who am I? I'm just some chucklehead talking into a microphone in my basement. To me, this speaks to the kind of movie that was organized in a way that a lot of people wanted to be a part of it, and it was organized by people that were so well liked that they were able to get a whole lot of people attached to it. And a lot of the movies that I've seen that sort of start like that, they have people on set are having a lot of fun, and it bleeds into what's actually being filmed. And the movie, I think this movie is no exception. I think this movie is actually probably the standard for that. It's very clear that there's great chemistry between the people who are the actors and probably the crew as well, and that people seem to be having a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good energy. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think a lot of times when you see ensemble casts like that, you know, I don't know if you guys have the same sense, but like I will sometimes feel like the actors are trying to steal the scene. They're trying to like hog screen time, or like they're trying to ham it up in a way that like, you know, I don't know, I'm Tom Cruise, and like you're watching that scene, and even though he's a bit part, you know, it's all about him being Tom Cruise. This movie felt different. Like you recognized the people, you knew that they were big, but you didn't feel like they were trying to like soak up all the screen time. They just added to it. And I don't know if that's a nuance that you guys felt, but you know, when you're contrasting it to movies that have just kind of just a freaking jambalaya plate of names, I think this does it better than most.
Agreed. I was very concerned as the movie kept going. I was like, oh shit, that's Ray Kinnear. Oh shit, that's Tom Waits. Oh shit, that's right, all three of these guys are in this. Oh, Hank Azaria. Oh my god. I got worried at first. I'm like, because again, it was not fresh in my mind. I'm like, oh crap, they are going to just overkill with, and Eddie Izzard's not going to get right. And because I thought it was going to be something like a Valentine's Day or movie 47. I'm like, how many people were blackmailed into this movie now? But it didn't feel like that after time. It actually did feel kind of genuine and ensemble driven.
Yeah,
I felt like they were roped in because like a buddy called them up and was like, I'm making this movie. I think you might be interested. And they're like, hell yeah. Like, write me a bit part. I'll be in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of the general theme. That's what we're going for. That's what's happening. Would we recommend this movie?
Recommend it. Let me think. Yes, I would recommend this movie to everyone except your crotchety old grandma.
All right. So well over the 50% mark.
Woo!
Yeah, to my close circle of friends, I would. Yeah.
Close circle of friends.
I don't think
the table?
Again, clearly it's not.
We don't need to see it. We've seen it.
No, I know. But the other nerd crews, like my D&D groups and my improv circles, yeah.
Shameless plug.
I would not. Come see us at Metro Detroit Improv. Our next show is January 18th. No.
Allegedly.
So, tune in to Plus Four Friends, the podcast.
So you would recommend it, but you have some reservations?
Yeah, I don't think it's... Again, it's such a niche movie. It really wouldn't appeal to...
Do you think?
I think so.
It does hit our demographic squarely.
It does, that's true. We need to be aware of that. I mean, is it over the 50% mark, though?
Yeah, I think especially since it now in 2019, there's like you were saying, a plethora of superhero movies. Yeah, it lands much harder than it did 20 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, how about you?
Well over the 50% mark for me. I would highly recommend this movie. Honestly, with the pervasiveness of superhero movies in our society today, I think this is going to land on a much wider audience than it would have in 1999. And I think for that reason, it's the kind of movie that like I would have recommended in 99, but I'm absolutely going to recommend it now. Yeah. I think you guys are cool. Should we move into spoiler territory?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're gonna dive in. Spoilers. Spoilers. We're gonna move into our deep personal overview. All right. So in this movie, basically what you've got is you've got three friends. You have the Shoveler, played by William H. Macy. You've got the Blue Raja, played by Hank Azaria, and you've got Mr. Furious, played by Ben Stiller. They are three, again, this is radio. You can't see my hands, I'm doing air quotes. Three superheroes.
They're vigilantes.
They kind of are vigilantes. Yeah. And
they're cosplayers.
Yeah.
They don't have any particular, like, powers per se. I mean, maybe Hank Azaria, he's pretty accurate. The Blue Raja is the master of silverware, so he throws silverware. The shoveler, as you might imagine,
just hits
He has
people
a
with
spade.
a shovel.
He just got a spade and he's going around town with it.
He's got tight jeans and he hits people with a shovel.
Hey, he also...
You were checking out his jeans the whole time?
You were?
No, I liked him. I liked his upper body a little bit more, and that's what
Fair.
did it for me.
That's fair.
He also wears his child's catcher's protection
vest.
for baseball.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Furious literally just wears a leather jacket and gets furious and tries to beat things up. So these three are roaming around this sort of fantastical city, very akin to Gotham, and they are trying to be superheroes. The city is called Champion City. They're doing their best. Meanwhile, Greg Kinnear plays a character named Captain Amazing, who is a genuine superhero. Again, all right, little aside here. They use the word superhero pretty loosely in this film. I always have taken superhero to mean, like, literally, like, somebody who is a hero that has superpowers. And I've always drawn a very, like, stark line between people like Iron Man and Batman and, like, superheroes, people who have abilities that other people don't have. Like Iron Man and Batman are basically just, like, rich, crazy people.
And that's what Captain Amazing is.
I don't know. He can kick people across the room. Do you think that's his suit, or do you think that's him?
I don't know. I mean,
I feel like if you train your entire life, you can get people across the room. Or if, like, you've got
I think that's how physics work.
a metal suit that's, like, enhancing you or some shit. But, like, I don't think they have an ability that, like, nobody else possesses.
it does give him the ability to fly.
True, it's a jetpack, so I'm inclined to believe it's the suit with the power.
Yeah, either way.
Oh, you're talking about Captain
Amazing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Batman. It's like, well, yeah, so, no.
Batman doesn't exist. Greg Kinnear can actually kick you across the room. Have you seen him? Man's wild.
That's why they got him for this movie.
Yeah,
Ugh,
actually,
scary.
they call
He's
him...
sneaking up behind you right now.
They call him Greg Kinnear.
Right?
That's...
Kinnear.
You don't want to be kicked near him.
Damn it with these dad jokes.
Anyway, so Captain Amazing, he's this super, popular hero for Champion City. He's wiped out all the supervillains. He has sponsors. You see him in a few scenes as in a commercial, just like, advertising toothpaste or whatever. And he's got all these patches all over him. Think like a race car, like a NASCAR race car. He's just got a bunch of logos all over him. They're all attached with, like, freaking Velcro. And after the initial scene, he gets word that Pepsi is dropping him. And he can't have that,
That's the taste of a new generation.
So he's talking to his publicist, casually, the superhero talking to his publicist, and they realize that the reason why Pepsi dropped him is he's just not as relevant anymore. He's done such a good job that, he's taken out all the villains. So he kind of hatches this idea to break one of those supervillains out to drum up media attention and ultimately catapult his career even higher, get that Pepsi logo back on his jacket. So that's kind of like the setup. That's what drops our antagonist, Mr. Casanova Frankenstein, into the movie.
Casanova Frankenstein is the villain that he decides to break out. He's in this, like, insane asylum, like Arkham,
again,
Arkham Asylum, kind of very reminiscent of that. And he ends up, like, first of all, one of the running jokes throughout the movie is that, was it Lance?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can't remember his last name, but
Amazing.
Yeah,
is Lance.
Yeah, it's basically
the glasses.
It's Bruce Wayne Batman, or Clark Kent. Superman, and it's like Lance something and Captain Amazing.
Lance
Hunt. There it is.
Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses. How could, if he took them off? How could he fight crime?
It just doesn't make sense. How would he see?
And of course, Ben Stiller's character is the only person who's like forwarding this theory, and everybody's looking at him like he's crazy, and he's like. Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses. Lance Hunt does, and he's like, he takes them off when he transforms. That's crazy. How would he see? Yeah, it's like it's like very explicitly poking fun at that sort of dichotomy. Anyway, so his alter ego Lance Hunt shows up with a letter from Captain Amazing where he basically endorses the release of Casanova Frankenstein. Casanova Frankenstein gets out, immediately starts reassembling his gangs, starting with the Disco Boys, which are just amazing.
Every scene they're in, you know, it kicks off with some funky beat, and then like the camera like slowly, well, almost we can rewatch it. I bet every scene with them starts with a pan up from their shoes,
Their platform shoes,
you know, kind of like angling up. Like everything is just so ham.
And they strike a pose, and they're immediately like hairspraying themselves. Like it's just it's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
To just have a gang themed as disco.
They don't even point in a direction without first moving their index finger to their hip.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that way. You know?
So, Casanova Frankenstein uses this, like, newfound freedom to trap Captain Amazing and basically puts him in captivity. He's going to kill him. The trio realizes that this is going to happen, and they realize that they need to recruit some fellow superheroes. They hear about the Invisible Boy, played by Kel Mitchell, and they go to Kel Mitchell's house, and he reveals to them that he can in fact turn invisible, but only when no one is watching.
Including himself.
Not even himself. And they're about to leave, and he basically says, like, listen, I've got the connection. I'm networked. I'll plug you into all of these other superheroes.
Can't gloss over the line, though. It's like, all right, Dad, I'm going into my room with 3 strange men.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
His dad doesn't even react.
Doesn't react.
Like, yeah, it's hard.
In that search, they also end up bumping into a superhero they were already familiar with, the Spleen.
So good.
Who was...
Paul? I think it's played by Paul Root. That's Paul.
Yes, Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
And the Spleen has a very specific superpower. He was walking down the street one day when he was 13, and he accidentally cut the cheese. And while he was doing this, in his teenage awkwardness, he decided to blame it on an old gypsy woman that was walking by.
Big mistake!
The gypsy woman placed a curse upon his head, and she decreed that since he smelt it, he shall forever be he who dealt it! All right, so the Spleen basically, he farts.
He has projectile farts.
Yeah.
He can knock out
Yeah, weaponized flatulence.
And what's funny, too, is that's, like, one of the stupidest powers in this whole movie, but it's one of, like, the most, like, legitimately effective powers.
Easily the most effective.
More than once.
Like, it's like a combination between him and the bowler, but, like, they're, like, they actually seem to have some kind of powers to them. You know?
He's the only one that sort of has an air of legitimacy to what he does.
I like what you get, an air of legitimacy.
A gas of legitimacy.
Yeah, he just points it, and he puts his hand out, and, like, whoever's around and pulls it. Like, there's a scene where he's, like, looking over his shoulder, compensate for air conditioning, you know, and just takes him out. It's so over the top.
So at this point, you've got the Shoveler, Mr. Furious, you've got the Blue Raja, you've got Invisible Boy, and you've got the Spleen. And they decide to hold tryouts. And during their tryouts, that is where they meet Pencil Man and the Waffler, who they do not decide to go with. But that is where they meet the Bowler, who is Jeanine Garofalo's character. She carries around a bowling ball that just happens to have her father's skull in it. Her father used to be a superhero named the Bowler, and I'm going to save that a particular element of that meeting for my quote at the end of this. But they end up, all of them, taking on Casanova Frankenstein in sort of a first run. It goes kind of as well as you'd expect. And then they end up getting saved at one point and joined by the Sphinx. Who...
Now, he is he's mysterious.
Oh, he's terribly mysterious.
Terribly mysterious. No, his entire, like, character is that. You know, you have no idea where, like, the limits of his powers are. I mean, I heard that he can, like, cut guns in half with his mind.
Really?
I mean...
You seen him do it?
We did.
No. I think so.
No, his character's fantastic. He's full
I
of...
was in the bathroom for that.
You know, in a movie just chock full of one-liners. Some of his are the best. You know, if you want to go left, you have to go right.
Yeah.
You know.
Again, like, yeah, he's got this, like, formulaic way of portraying this his lines, and the only person who seems to notice is Ben Stiller's character. It's a really amazing sort of recurring joke throughout the movie. I just, again, the writing of this movie is just fucking outstanding. So, that's the full team. You've got the Sphinx, the Bowler, the Spleen, Invisible Boy, Blue Raja, the Shoveler, and Mr. Furious.
It's a fucked up dorm party of the Super Friends.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. They are also enhanced by Dr. Heller, who is a sort of mad genius that makes weapons, but nothing lethal. And together they team up to take on Casanova Frankenstein. While they're taking on Casanova Frankenstein in the climax of the film, they just so happened to accidentally kill the captive Captain.
Oh yeah,
Amazing.
They kill Captain Amazing.
Straight up, like, melt him, turn him into dust.
Yep.
Because they can't figure out the fucking machine. It's the kind of scene where, like, the scene is over and you're just staring at the screen and you're like, that just happened?
That is a left turn for a superhero movie. Like that, it took all the classics and was like, yeah, we're gonna save the day. Nope.
No.
Did anyone hear me when I said reset button?
Yeah. How many toggle switches in Toto?
Nope. When you say toggle, do you mean switch? Toggle switch?
It's so good.
Blue Raja killed the captain.
So that kind of like sums up the major beats of the movie. You know, one of the things that I liked about this movie, you know, that almost it makes it like an adventure movie to me, or kind of the movie that I personally call an adventure movie or whatever, is it's got many peaks and valleys. You know, there are many scenes where the action kind of ramps up and then it dies down, and then it ramps up, and then they make several attempts to take on Casanova and his gang. And they're almost always failing, but it gives you a chance to like get excited, laugh, and then breathe, and then excited, laugh, and then breathe. And by the time you're done with it, when you're thinking back on the path that they took, it felt like it was an adventure. You know, they did a lot of things. There wasn't this meat, build up, conflict, resolution. You know, it was all over the place, and I think it added to the movie.
That's a good point, and it was like you were saying, it was paced well. You know, where it was definitely cyclical, but like each time you gained a little bit more until the climax, and then it was a very well spaced, well designed film.
I think the term is like what, peaks and valleys. You know, you want rising and falling action throughout your serial adventure movie.
Yeah. Now, do we, credit that to the directing or the writing? Because I felt like the dialogue in this movie was great. Like, it's full of dialogue. It's an action movie, but it is full of dialogue.
I gotta give it up for the writing. I think of all of the sort of major classes of film aspect, the writing of this film is what makes it what it is. Everything was amazing. It really, like, hit all points well, but the writing was like a thing of its own. It was witty. It was just a clever movie. And I think you said this at one point during the movie, Mark. You were like, every line in this is a one-liner. Like, there's no part of this movie that can't just stand in isolation by itself. It's just a genuinely funny, well-written movie.
Yep. And I guess moving to acting a little bit here, I enjoyed that, like, each one of the characters felt like that. Like, they were an individual, and they were a character. There was when you've got like an ensemble cast there, it's easy to kind of get like caught up in just all of the bodies in it. But each person reacted left of screen to whatever was going on. I mean, even if they were just running across the screen trying to like sneak around, which
definitely happened at one point in the movie.
Yeah, you had characters like, Mr. Furious, who was like jumping and rolling and like crawling, or you had the Blue Raja, who was like tiptoeing with his hands up in the air,
like a Scooby-Doo character tiptoeing.
Yeah, and then you've got the Shoveler, who's he's a family man. He's very just by the numbers. He just kind of puts his arms up. And he just kind of runs across, and none of that's not. That's not taking center stage. That's just kind of happening.
That's
in the
good
background.
character development, actually. That's
so
actually fitting into their personas. And I will say this about the writing, like why I give a little tip more to the writing. Each character does rise above his or her station. They actually do develop to a higher place than where they started, and many of them get closure into what they needed. Janine Garofalo's character, the bowler, gets closure with her avenging her father. Roy gets the girl. Shoveler gets respect from the home. Blue Raja connects with his mom.
Yeah.
Everybody gets accepted or like rising above from where they started at a lower point in the movie.
That's true.
That's kind of like Heroes 101 right there. So it fits the formula, even though it's a goofy fart comedy.
And it is.
And it is.
Yeah.
But it stays true to a formula. So hats off to that for like good details.
Yep. I think in terms of like score and soundtrack, I mean, it was to be honest, even though I love this movie, if you played me just the soundtrack for it, I think there'd be plenty of tracks that I didn't recognize. Like there was the epic music.
A lot of horns in the score.
Yeah.
Burr, 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 burr. Like, no, Casanov's Frankenstein got out. Oh, what are we gonna do?
Oh, blowing up the insane asylum.
Yeah, the score was nothing to write home about, except in that like it really
fit.
It fit. It exuded that sort of like mid-90s Batman film vibe.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack, I think it did have like.
Oh, it was like all disco, And
Well, there's disco. There was
some pop songs thrown in there.
All Star from Smash Mouth was the sort of like.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a shooting star soundtrack. It breaks the mold.
It's true. Well, the Meteor Man begs to differ.
Right. Is that the song from Shrek? Is that Shrek came up with that song? Is that?
Shrek did "I'm a Believer." Mark.
Hey now.
Yeah.
You're a believer. Check your game on.
Check your soundtrack, Mark. Yeah.
Chickadee, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, and then Puss in Boots came in with a sequel doing "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself."
That's exactly what I was talking about.
No, but this movie actually, good point with the Shrek thing. This was one of two movies in a very short span of time that were able to capitalize on the popularity of Smash Mouth while they were popular. I mean, I love that song.
At this point, you might as well be walking on the sun.
Yeah. I hold no ill will towards Smash Mouth. Like, they helped make the late 90s and early 2000s what they were, and my hat's off to them. Well done, Smash Mouth.
I prefer Smashing Pumpkins myself. It being October when we're recording this.
Honestly, you can smash anything and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's I'm cool with that. Other than that, there were a couple of songs that I think sort of tickled my fancy. They're not jumping to my head right now, but it was all right. And I like that. Like, even though it didn't make this movie stand out, the soundtrack necessarily, I do appreciate that having a soundtrack that is very like pop driven, very knowable songs in the time and place is a very like late 90s, early 2000s thing to do. I don't think a lot of other slices of time are as characterized by like, let's just write in a super popular song and just,
Yeah, and the way they did it too was like they just boiled down like the most memorable 10 seconds of those songs.
Yeah.
And they just hit it with that 10 seconds and then the scene. They weren't full songs. It was like, here are the Disco Boys. Here's like, here's a slice of the Bee Gees that everybody knows. And then it cuts to the dialogue. Like, I think they were really intentional with their execution of that nostalgia.
Yeah, and I think this movie is sort of part of a larger movement that was going on at that point that like people have not sort of tapped into before or since that really capitalized on like super popular songs.
Yeah.
And I dig that. I thought this movie was just creative as shit, though.
I would go, we could go down to Harmony House or, FYE, pick up this on compact disc, the soundtrack.
Those are the small round things that are like, they're reflective.
It's like a Walkman.
That sounds very kind of gender biased.
Well, you know how walk person.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a phonograph.
It's like a wax cylinder, but not made of wax.
Yes. It's like a string quartet.
Yeah. Okay, so...
we went right back to the fucking Reigns of Castamere there.
We're fine. It's fine. No. But yeah, creatively, it's so good. It's so just batshit crazy, but it fits in like this like endearing way. The jokes are super random. They don't... I think they hit you with so many jokes that some of them fall flat, but I think... I don't know.
It makes rewatchability massive.
Oh, for sure.
Like, the rewatchability factor on this movie is absolutely through the roof.
Yep.
The other thing that I just... Like, all right, I'm just going to circle back and say, like, fucking Casanova Frankenstein, that is some of the most creative, character development I could possibly imagine. And it didn't stop with his name and his acting, but like, first of all, Jeffrey Rush, probably the most brilliant choice for that character. And then also the physical character, like the way they did his hair. He had like, you guys remember finger armor. He had like at least 4 or 5 pieces of finger armor on at any one time. He had this like crushed velvet jacket that, went down to his mid-thigh. He was wearing like these sort of casual slippers. It's just like, who the fuck is this guy? How did you think this up? Casanova Frankenstein also just happens to be a supervillain, just happens to be the kind of person who can create an atomic defraculator. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but that was some version of that was the fucking angry thing that he created that was going to melt the head of the town.
I love how just casually they throw in techno jargon.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's just it's not even thinking twice about it. Just so I think that's brilliant delivery on like Tom Waits' part and Jeffrey Rush's part. Just like, oh yeah, no, that's what it is.
It's a subatomic fraculator.
Yeah,
and he's just
and like no big deal. It's just something that happens. In this world. Oh, okay, that's what we have.
There's a point at which Tom Waits is just, like, rambling on for, like, it's got to be 20, 30 seconds. Yeah. It's completely incomprehensible. Like...
bunch of Star Trek jargon.
Yeah, like...
just throwing out there.
If you all out there in cyberspace have ever seen the videos of the Turbo Encabulator, I highly recommend Googling that. And it's very reminiscent of that. So just go ahead, pause the sound right now. Go Google Turbo Encabulator, watch the 3-minute video on it, maybe read up on it a little bit, and come back, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. They do that shit throughout the whole movie, and they actually say this one name in the very beginning about what he has built, and then no other character repeats that name in the same way for the rest of the movie. It's all something that sounds like it, but it's not actually that.
Oh, so good. Do we have anything we want to add for intangibles? I mean, I feel like we're pretty thoroughly dicing this movie up and explaining it. I mean, this movie is full of what I would call intangibles, and I would kind of chalk it up to the synergy of everyone in the room. Every absurd thing that happens that just fits in an endearing way. Now, I'm biased. I love this movie. I've seen it countless times, but I will stand by this movie. I will take it out to dinner.
Maybe you don't want a second date.
Maybe. Do you guys have anything you want to add to intangibles? Because I didn't really add anything there. I just...
On intangibles, I'd actually like to resurrect something we've already brought up and sort of lump it into the intangibles category, and that's rewatchability. I think that is something that is so understated with a lot of movies, and as a person who rewatches movies a lot, I'm the kind of person who... rewatchability for me is both, I think my threshold for rewatchability is much lower than most people's. I will rewatch a lot of things a lot of times. That being said, I think that makes me particularly sensitive to when something is exceptionally rewatchable or maybe not so much. And this movie, I can say, is the kind of movie that could just, to conjure up some stuff from our earlier podcasts, could just live in your DVD player for extended periods of time, and you could just hit play every night as you went to bed and just fall asleep to it.
I will say, gentlemen, I'm getting a lot of feedback from this. I'm having some flashbacks to your Evolution reviews. I feel like it's kind of in that vein for you guys, which IMDb did recommend. Oh, hey, by the way, if you like this, watch Evolution.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've got a soft spot for the dumb humor,
Oh, that's fine. I could watch Almost Heroes 100 times in a row.
Yeah, and this very much is that. I have to, it's not deep.
It's not, and it's not trying to be anything it's not in this. After this first wave of 90s superhero movies, it's not trying to be anything other than, a silly take on it.
Yeah, as far as critiques go, I mean, I think saying it's not deep is probably a legitimate critique, but I think that critique is sort of undercut by the notion that this movie is completely aware that it is not deep. Mm-hmm. It's not pretending to be anything that it's not, like you said.
It's sort of like Almost Heroes, and you just brought that up. When characters would make, just ridiculous statements or whatever, a lot of times it would pan to another character who's just staring at them, and then you're just getting their reaction to this absurdity. So yeah, they 100% knew what it was. What do we want to move on to next?
I mean, as far as the directing goes, I thought it was very well shot. I know I've heard people say that they are a little sensitive to like certain angles or certain lenses that are used because they project a very sort of uncomfortable, I guess, balance in the scene, you know? I'm not particularly sensitive to that, but it might be something that some viewers are a little uncomfortable with. This movie also, and this is a vibe thing, so I'm just gonna put this out there. This is not something that can be sort of like bottled up and say this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, but like this movie is very quirky in sort of like a dark but also bland pastel kind of way. And I realize that I just threw out a bunch of words that don't necessarily like go together or didn't make a coherent sentence, but I'm going to try and tie it to something that you might understand what I'm saying. It was very reminiscent of Edward Scissorhands. And I think a lot of that might be because of Tim Burton's involvement in both Edward Scissorhands and in the mid-90s Batman franchise. Mm-hmm. I think because the director and the creative team were drawing elements from those movies, this has a very like Tim Burton-y vibe that I think a lot of people are sensitive to, and I don't think everybody likes. I like it a lot, but there are definitely like some scenes, some elements of this movie that you might watch and you're like, I don't know why this just makes me a little uncomfortable. Like it just feels weird. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like they wanted to make a movie with their friends. Usher wanted to do this, and Ben Stiller probably brought some buddies on. And it is over gratuitous, the amount of wide-angle close-ups they use. It's gratuitous. It gets kind of old really fast. And it really only works for Stiller's character. Because it should be, because he's Furious is supposed to be in your face. And you are supposed to get kind of that weird, unstable, like, look of it. It doesn't matter for Shoveler's wife, and it doesn't matter for Jeffrey Rush's character, and it doesn't matter for a good chunk of the other characters. It really doesn't fit the narrative of those characters in my mind.
So that's
like that's a little thing that stood out to me more this time watching it 20 years later.
See, I think I enjoyed that, but you're saying it actually took you out of it.
It took me out of it a little bit. This is like so many people hated the Dutch angles in Thor. And I didn't mind that. Like I actually didn't care. Like whatever.
So what is a Dutch angle?
It's shot from a tilt on the lower side of the screen, usually a left or right angle, tilting from a low angle to the screen, going up in a diagonal. And wide angle close-ups, you're going to see a little bit more of their face. You're going to see a little bit more of their sides of their surroundings.
Stretches their face out across the screen.
Yeah, it's got that.
It's a very unsettling.
It gets
shot.
more. It can be unsettling, especially in creepier settings or in places where they wanted to get more intimate into a situation that would take you into, I don't know, somebody's perspective in a different way. And again, it works for Furious because he's supposed to be in your face and he's supposed to be unstable, a little shaky in times.
Now, do you think, I don't know, would you give him a pass in this movie? Because you could tell that they were doing it intentionally, because they did it to the dog.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they did.
It's almost like a nod, like, hey, we're going to do this all the time.
Did it just become a running joke during production then? Because that's what I need to know then.
So I think that's something that, when you were describing that, sort of popped into my head. Is like, I don't know this for a fact, but like, this movie seemed so aware of itself. Mm-hmm. It seemed so involved in what it was doing, and it seems so intentional about trying to rip off those like mid-90s Batman films that I kind of wonder if like maybe one or all of those movies, those Batman movies, were like egregious on that particular point, and because of that, they adopted it and kind of had it as a running joke that like, oh, we're just gonna do this shit over and over, and
they really did. I mean,
they really did up till the end. Yeah.
I mean, there's even a scene. You've got a finger cam. Have you ever seen a
Sure.
finger cam?
Oh my god! You know what? Fucking no! We're rewinding the tape. We're going back to the intangibles that we liked. Fucking finger cam.
Oh my god, dude! I mean, it's okay. If you've ever played a first-person shooter, you know you've got like the gun right in front of you, and you're going at the. This is a finger cam. Casanova Frankenstein, of course, it's Casanova Frankenstein. But Casanova, he's attacking Mr. Furious. He throws his pinky out. It's got this long acrylic on it, and he just like hisses at him, and then suddenly there's like a freaking GoPro or whatever on his finger, and you like follow it around as like.
It is literally like lashing out in first person with this finger cam. Oh, just absolutely the most creative first-person finger camera scene I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's right up there with the legendary first-person camera
Finger cam.
finger cams.
Well, yeah, while we're talking about intangibles, though, should we talk about the bowling ball physics? Or, like, the bowling ball CGI?
Well...
Did that age well for you guys? Because not so much for me.
I don't think it took me out of it, and I think it's because of the tone of the film. I feel like if this movie took itself more seriously, that would have bothered me a lot more. But it's interesting that you brought up how the film aged, because, to be honest, and Mark, you touched on this a little earlier, I think this movie, as much as I loved it when it came out, I think it's even funnier now. I think it aged so well, like a fine wine. And part of that, I think, is because of the amount of superhero movies that have come out and how ingrained our culture has become in superhero movies.
It's worth a rewind for sure.
Yeah, I think it lands harder now.
Agreed.
Because like the types of jokes they're making and the things they're riffing on just weren't permeating every aspect of our culture when this came out in 99. Like you said, you had like, you had the Schumacher Batman, you had the Burton Batman, you had some Superman films from the 70s, and then you had a couple of franchises that people, like an uncomfortably large amount of people didn't realize were comics, like, Blade and Spawn and The Crow and stuff like that. Yeah. That's it. And it's like a lot of these jokes are not landing circa 1999, but circa 2019, shit, man, they're landing hard.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah, I think going back a little bit to the special effects, the CGI scenes, like you could tell that they were CGI. There were some of the I
mean, obviously they didn't need it in there. Obviously we couldn't just have a bowling ball on a string that would look stupid.
Yeah, and I think I'm more prepared to look the other way because this is it's a comedy, I think if they were trying to suck me into realism, I'd have a harder time with it. But some of even like the stage, like the setting, prop work wasn't. I guess in a visual way, it doesn't age as well as I think it does with the dialogue and the jokes. Those I feel are better today than they were when it came out. But certainly the special effects, they don't hold up as well. I'll concede that.
So I think that's about all I've got for like this movie on what we liked, what we didn't like. Are you guys cool to move on to quotes?
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? Who wants to share their quote?
All right, I'm going to throw out a Casanova Frankenstein quote here. So quick setting here. Casanova gets all the gangs, back together. They're going around the table, kind of reintroducing everybody. One of those gangs, oh man, they're the frat boys. They're serving time for lethal hazing. They're just they're frat boys. And frat boys are just naturally villainous, of course, but. At the end of that scene, he's gonna get up and he's gonna show them this defraculator, and he's gonna show everybody their plan. So they're getting up, and then one of the frat boys, I think it was played by Michael Bay, looks up at Casanova Frankenstein and says, hey, can we bring the brewskis? And so like Casanova looks at him and he says, yes, of course, you may absolutely bring brewskis.
That was a good Casanova, too, dude. That was solid.
The delivery.
Watch out, Trevor Rush.
Absolutely bring Sapruskis.
I feel like we didn't mention that like Casanova has this like weird sort of accent kind of thing. Yeah. That was a solid Casanova Frankenstein you just did.
So good. What do you got, Tim?
All right, let's see here. God, like Janine Garofalo and Eddie Izzard steal the scene so much because, God, he almost goes into his stance like, yes, because I killed him. Father. But leaving Tom Waits' mad scientist carnival shop, I just love her little walk away quote. Like, see, this is why you go with the garden variety of scientists, not the mad scientists. I love that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So I had as we've done in the past, I just have a truckload of these, and I think Mark did a good job at. He didn't even know he was doing it, reining me in when he said every line in this movie is a quote. So I'm gonna really dial it back and go to one, and that one is one that I know most of this movie line for line, and this is one that I didn't know, and it should be one that I knew because it's fucking hilarious and it jumps out. But they're driving into battle in their Herkimer battle Jenny, and they're on their way to Castle Frankenstein's mansion, and the shoveler is driving, and he's trying to get everybody inspired and trying to communicate how dire the situation is, and he's like, we've got a blind date with Destiny, and it looks like she's ordered the lobster. That line will absolutely be uttered by me now at least once every 2 weeks. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just so absurd.
Looks like she's ordered the lobster.
You know, when you sit there like, oh, where's the... What?
High stakes. It's high stakes.
No, that's a surf and turf. That's when she orders the high steaks and lobster.
I'm just saying, the steak man robs the salad man every time when we split the check 3 ways.
All I'm saying is that when we split the check 3 ways, the steak eater picks the pocket of the salad man.
Why don't you throw a knife or something? Oh, that's right, I'm a knifey boy now.
I'm not knifey boy. Man. I'm not stab man. The Blue Raja. Oh man,
it's gonna save these for your wedding day, but I think that's gonna be a long way. We're gonna keep going.
Every line of this movie is just gold. Mm-hmm. So I am interested in hearing some ratings. What do we got, gentlemen?
Tim?
I'm so torn because there's a lot I like about this, but I feel like, again, because I can't gauge this on too much of Usher's other work because I don't know it.
All right, I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna flat out say I've been for some reason mulling this number over my head and it just feels right. I'm gonna go 7.7 Herkimer Battle Jennies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I gotta give points to the ensemble cast because I love them so much. Don't know the director that well, and I gotta take points away.
Oh, you can't take points away because you don't know the director though.
He's friends with Michael Bay.
This is true.
Yeah.
Michael Bay could be a delight.
Sometimes.
And just a person who is partial to explosions and giant robots.
I heard he's great to work with. I heard wonderful things.
Also, I heard he invented the bay leaf. Is that accurate?
Yeah. No, he was born of a bay leaf.
Born of a bay leaf.
He was of the Fey Wilds, and they plucked him.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But it was his family that was responsible for most Italian cuisine and good sauces.
For sure.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm. That might be true, but I'm going to be honest with you. I was too busy trying to calculate my units of measurement here. All right, I'm just gonna do it. Okay.
Go for it.
I'm gonna give this the highest rating I have ever given a movie in the history of this podcast. Okay, and I'm gonna defend it by saying I fucking love this movie, and I'm not listening if you have a problem with that. I'm just gonna shut my ears. I fucking love this movie. Okay, I'm gonna give this 9 out of 10 defraculators. Okay,
Whoa.
9 out of 10.
That's heavy duty, man.
Okay? Now there are several point notches. I guess I could go higher, but this is a movie that I could watch it 1,000 times because it's so rewatchable. Is it a technically good movie? Maybe you could debate that, but I'm not gonna because I love it. All right.
So I'm definitely in favor of the 9 out of 10 if that's your personal
that is my
perspective.
Personal.
However, would you also agree that there are definitely contingents of people that I might not recommend this movie to. I think my parents' generation, you'd be hit and miss on who would actually find this movie amusing. I think people who, like you said, are you said, I'm not looking at this super technically. I feel like people who have a stick up their ass about technical bullshit when it comes to films would be kind of annoyed with this movie. Would you agree that it's not for absolutely everybody?
I agree, and while I'm not going to give what the IMDb rating is, I guess that the IMDb rating, you can look it up if you want to, probably reflects a more reasonable approach. But again,
don't look up its gross domestic box office.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
But again, I think that's because in '99 this movie was way ahead of its time. And it's aged so well, and it's so relevant now.
Yep. But the beautiful thing about the defraculator unit of measurement is it's entirely made up.
But it's also Herkimer Battle Jennies are.
Well, those are...
They're immune to defraculators.
Well...
So there's almost no conversion.
I think there could be some debate there. I don't want to turn the page just yet. On the...
Fine, let's just junk it.
There you go.
We'll just junk it.
So,
All right, out of 10.
That's a joke from the movie. Sorry, if those of you who don't, just junk it. That's me playing like a 70-year-old woman. I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah. All right, you've been him-hawing, Tim. What do you got? What do you got?
Sorry,
Hit us with it.
I am going over the 50 percentile, but not as high as you guys. 5.9 pinky knives.
5.9 pinky knives. Now,
Yeah, pinky cams.
can I be
Pinky cams. Ugh.
Can I be difficult, and say that a pinky cam is pretty fucking sweet?
Oh, it's very sweet. Yeah.
So would 5.9 pinky cams be closer to a 10 out of 10 for anything else?
No, because it's a smaller digit on the rest of the hand.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, if it was like, if I was really gung-ho about this, if I thought it aged appropriately and I thought they didn't kind of overload their plate as much as they wanted to, like they didn't leave anything out. They left in so many decades. They left in so many hero tropes. They left in so many things. They left in so many jokes. It's just like, okay, you're too much, movie. You're too much. I would have given it big gold finger armor.
A big gold finger.
Big gold finger armors for your index finger, yeah.
All right, well.
But pinky cam, sorry.
I guess I'll just have to accept that, maybe you don't love the movie as much as I do.
I don't.
This was Mark's pick.
I'm sorry.
We should have led with that.
No one would have guessed that.
But I think I like this more than 1408.
I think it's an amazing pick.
Fair.
Yeah.
Also, I think 1408 was an amazing pick, but
Yeah.
I think this was
Again,
an
we're
amazing
going to
pick.
have pick bias. Like, next time around, I'm totally going to have pick bias. So,
So, I think that's all we've got for this one.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, let's cut the podcast and watch it again.
All right, so that is all we have for the All Crap review. Thank you for listening. If you have any ideas for movie reviews, email us at 3, that's the number 3, meninabasement @gmail.com. Until then, I am Colin McLeod.
Mark Culp.
Timothy Magic.
And we'll see you in cyberspace.
Peace.